He heard the voice behind him crack with shame. "Please, sir. My little boy is hungry. We have nowhere else to go." Marcus lowered his fork, heart slamming in his chest. He turned to see a mother trembling in the doorway, holding a small child who clutched his empty stomach. That was the moment Marcus realized he was not just looking at strangers. He was looking at the very pain he once lived through. Marcus Reed sat alone inside a small diner that glowed with warm light. It was the kind of place where the soft hum of old lamps mixed with the quiet clatter of plates and forks. He came here once a week, always choosing the same booth meant for two, even though only one seat was ever filled. A plate of chicken and rice sat in front of him, steam curling upward in the quiet air. He stared at it for a moment, letting the warmth drift toward him. Marcus was a single father, though the world now saw him as a man who walked alone. His son Caleb had passed away after a long illness, leaving Marcus to navigate life with a hollow place where laughter used to live. He had learned to breathe again, slowly, painfully. But eating alone still felt like trying to swallow grief. Tonight, the ache in his chest felt sharper. Outside, holiday lights glowed across the city. Families moved with joy. Parents lifted children onto their shoulders. Couples whispered promises under the cold night sky. Inside the diner, people shared food, stories, and comfort. Marcus felt the gap between himself and the world widen with every passing minute. Just as he raised his fork, a gentle, trembling voice floated from behind him. It carried exhaustion, fear, and quiet pleading. "My son is hungry. Is it all right if we stay a while?" Marcus turned. A woman stood near his booth, hesitating at the edge of the warm light. Her shoulders sagged beneath invisible weight. Her clothes were worn but clean, her hands shaking as she held a little boy pressed tightly against her chest. The boy looked small, maybe 4 years old, with wide, tired eyes and a hand resting on his stomach. Marcus froze. The boy's hunger echoed Caleb's on the nights Marcus had stayed awake, trying to soothe him during treatments. A familiar ache washed over him, pulling memories forward he thought had settled in the past. The woman explained softly that they had been walking for hours. The shelters were full. The boy had eaten nothing since the night before. She did not ask for money or food. She simply asked for a moment of warmth. Marcus set his fork down slowly. The empty seat across from him no longer felt like a reminder of loss. It felt like a space that had been waiting. He motioned gently for them to sit. The woman hesitated, as if afraid she might break something sacred by getting too close. But the boy tugged her forward, drawn by the scent of food he desperately needed. They sat together, forming a quiet trio bound not by blood, but by shared human need. Marcus signaled the waitress for 2 more meals. The woman murmured a shaky thanks, but he only gave a gentle nod. Kindness, he believed, should not require permission. The silence around them was soft and natural. Jonah, the little boy, rested his head against his mother's arm. His eyelids drooped from exhaustion. His mother Ava watched him with the tired alertness of someone who had been strong for far too long. Marcus saw the worry in her eyes, the way her fingers shook slightly every time she adjusted Jonah's jacket. He asked the boy's name. Ava answered quietly. "Jonah." She introduced herself as Ava. Then in hesitant words, she explained the truth. She had been working 2 part-time jobs, both unstable. One had just laid her off. She had used the last bit of money to keep Jonah warm, skipping meals so he could eat. He had not eaten in almost a full day. Marcus felt his chest tighten. He knew how it felt to fight for a child with everything you have, even when the world does not fight back. He saw the raw love in Ava's eyes, the determination in the way she held Jonah, the quiet way she spoke, as if afraid of being judged. The meals arrived. Jonah's tired eyes lit up. Ava encouraged him to eat slowly, but hunger took over. The boy ate with small, hurried bites, the kind that break a person's heart to witness. Marcus looked away briefly, tears forming where no one could see. The sight reminded him of the nights he begged Caleb to take one more bite. Hoping nourishment could somehow outweigh illness, Ava barely touched her food, watching her son with quiet relief. Marcus pushed his own plate toward her without speaking. She shook her head at first, but her body begged otherwise. He insisted with a soft gesture. Her hands trembled as she took a bite, as if rediscovering what a warm meal felt like. Asterisk slowly. A gentle warmth began to fill the booth. The sounds of the diner faded into a soft hum. Ava shared that she had been terrified to approach Marcus. She had been turned away by others before. People who claimed to be busy. People who did not want to be burdened. Marcus gave a small, tired smile. He told her that some people who have lost the most understand the value of being there for someone else. His voice was steady, but carried a quiet pain Ava immediately recognized. Hearts that break can still give. Jonah finished his meal and looked more awake. More alive. Asterisk, he smiled for the first time that night, a small grin that reached Marcus's soul. The boy slid closer to his mother and whispered something that made Ava wipe her eyes. Marcus watched the gentle exchange, feeling a warmth inside him he had not felt in months. Once the plates were cleared, Ava admitted she had nowhere safe to go for the night. She did not know what tomorrow would bring. The weight of her words hung heavy in the air. Marcus considered the empty rooms of his quiet home. Rooms filled with memories, pictures, silent echoes of a life that once had laughter. A home too big for one man and too quiet for a heart that still searched for meaning. He didn't want to overwhelm Ava, but he offered help finding a shelter. If none were available, he would cover the cost of a warm hotel room. He also mentioned his company was hiring extra help and that he would vouch for her. Ava's eyes widened. A spark of hope flickered through the exhaustion. She covered her mouth with her hand, overwhelmed. Jonah looked at Marcus with a trust so pure it nearly broke him. Jonah then reached out and placed his tiny hand over Marcus's. A simple gesture. Small fingers, but powerful enough to soften the deepest scars. In that moment, Marcus understood something important. He had not been meant to eat alone that night. Life had placed two souls in his path who needed him just as much as he needed them. Sometimes strangers are the bridge. Between broken hearts, sometimes kindness is the doorway to healing. Sometimes the answer to loneliness is simply being there for someone who needs a seat at your table. Ava thanked him softly. Marcus nodded, and for the first time in a long time, the weight on his heart felt lighter. He thought he was going to the diner to eat alone. But instead, he found connection, courage, and purpose in two people who stumbled into his life at the perfect moment. If this story touched your heart, share where you're watching from. Tell us what part moved you the most. And subscribe for more stories honoring the quiet strength of everyday heroes.